This is a Blairing Out with Eric Blair show, and I'm here with Andy Six of Black Veil Brides. Andy, like last time I spoke with you, you were going by the name Andy Six, but there's a lot of rumors going around that you actually want to use your real name and not use Six as much. Is this true?
Certainly, yeah. I don't really mind if people call me Andy Six, but to me, we got to a point, especially in our career, where Andy Six was always a name that I used when I was young. It was sort of it was like, I guess I would liken it to like my version of my escape. It was like my Batman. It was something I could hide behind when I was very young, and I kind of created a character that I was on stage. And the older I got and the more I experienced things, I sort of realized more and more that, it was really the true me, Andy Biersack, the me that I was as a little kid, was coming out more and more just by seeing, the devotion that people have to the band and just the level of success that we've gotten to. I just don't feel like I need to hide behind some name anymore. And I'm very proud of who I am, and I'm very proud of my family and how supportive they were. So I feel like it's important that people know, what my real name is and where I came from, and just, if nothing else, that this is really who I am. So.
Am I correct in saying that the new album is called Set the World on Fire?
Yes, sir.
And there is actually a song by Kiss called Flaming Youth where in the lyrics it says Set the World on Fire. That's the first thing I thought of, and that's good company to be in.
No, it was definitely a nod to that. That song inspired me a lot when I was a young kid, and the idea of being young and being rebellious and doing what you want with your life, that's always been something that I think that we've talked about in our songs, and so that definitely was a nod to the our heroes.
Now, last time I spoke with you, also you were blowing up, but now you've really blown up. I mean, you've already been in 2 issues of Revolver. You're pretty much everywhere. How are you starting to evolve and change as a person from the success?
I don't know. I think we've got more awards now. So
that's right,
yeah.
Golden God Awards.
Yeah, we won.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, and Kerrang, Best International Newcomer, a bunch of new stuff. So, yeah, I think if anything, there's no real negatives to it. I think that it's nice to know that the work that we put in is being rewarded and that our fans are really enjoying what we do. We take it in stride. It's one day at a time. We don't try to, at the end of the day, what we want is to be the biggest band in the world. I think that's what every band wants. So it's all about the work towards, making the art that you want and showing your audience what maybe your true colors are, and everything else is sort of little nice bonuses along the way.
You've always been a confident architect of your creation, the Black Veil Brides, and I think that really reflects to people, and I think that also gains a lot of confidence in your fans because you're giving them something they can believe in.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. I mean, for us, like I've said to you before, we do believe in our message, and we think that it's important that, if nothing else, we write rock songs that are about basic ideas, rebellion and angst and feeling like maybe you're alone but wanting to go do something with your life. These are things that everybody experiences regardless of their age or what they do. So I mean, we don't try to complicate it too much, and rock and roll is supposed to be fun, and I'm glad that it struck a nerve with our audience, and that you walk out there and see all the kids in the makeup and everything, and it's fun. It's supposed to be that way.
Now, on the new album, you have a song called New Religion, correct? And you also have a song called Fallen Angel. And then you have another one. I seem to see like a kind of a spiritual, religious type of imagery used in some of the titles of your songs. Now, explain that to me.
I grew up in a very religious, I'm not very religious, but my grandmother and grandfather especially are very devout Catholic, and I went to church every Sunday, and I became fascinated with religion at a very young age, in all forms of religion. And while I don't myself belong to any one particular religion, I find all of them equally fascinating. And I think that in terms of especially Western society, a lot of what we do, and whether people are aware of it or want to deny it or not, are based on like Christian ideals. You look at our laws and everything else. It's not necessarily to say that everyone subscribes to one idea, but I think it's just innate in our society. So to me, the metaphors and the comparisons you can draw between a lot of religious imagery and a lot of what we deal with in our day-to-day lives is pretty strong. So even in terms of, you look at a song like Fallen Angels, the idea of the Fallen Angels and the story of the Fallen Angels, it basically represents the ultimate outcast. You look at, and the Nephilim and the people that were sort of just in-betweens. They didn't have anywhere to call home. They weren't, evil or divine, so they were just sort of alone. And I think that a lot of people feel that way. Kids that wear black and listen to rock music aren't, all Satan worshippers and terrible people, but they certainly aren't, goody two shoes like the immediate people that everyone would assume is the nicest person in the world. So a lot of those things influence me a great deal, especially in songwriting.
Now, do you keep up with current events?
I try to.
Do you remember a couple months ago, and I'm wondering what you think of this, is that a famous radio pastor said that the rapture was going to happen on a certain day.
Certainly.
And a lot of older people sold everything they had, and it never happened, and now they have nothing. I mean, what do you think of people prophesying like that?
It's irresponsible, and it's anything but what the thing about Christianity, and the reason that it fascinates me so much in particular, is how warped people make it. What's essentially a message of hope and love and respecting people around you gets warped into the most ridiculous things, and essentially what that person did is incredibly evil, and preyed upon people that were maybe less fortunate in terms of that a lot of people can't really. And it's the more you get into a religion, the more people sort of they devote themselves to a degree that maybe they lose some sense of self. And that's why I find it so important to, before you devote yourself to any deity or religion, make sure you're strong in yourself so that you know that you're giving your faith into something that you truly believe in, not just a fear of going to hell, which is why a lot of people, they don't, it's a false thing. People will just say, I don't want to go to hell, so I'll do terrible things, and then claim to be divine, and that's what a person like that does, in my opinion. I think it's sort of an asshole move, and it's not uncommon, unfortunately, in that sect. You look at particularly like the evangelical world, there's a lot of people that do a lot of terrible things, and it unfortunately blankets all of Christianity to a lot of people. And that's, you look at in terms of what people would say about atheism, and there's a lot of atheists that are so much have that holier than thou attitude to people that are religious. And to me, I find that also equally ridiculous. To me, I really feel that as humans, we sort of don't know. And if you do, I personally don't, but if you do, put your faith in something, it's important to know who you are and to not do it for the wrong reasons. But, I guess everybody's reasons are different. But in my opinion, what would be the wrong reasons?
How do you feel the new album, Set the World on Fire, is an evolution for the Black Veil Brides?
I feel like we've just grown as songwriters, and certainly in terms of what we want our music to convey in our songs. I just think we've done a better job, and I think that'll continue. I mean, we keep growing. We're a young band, and we're fairly new to this, to writing and making records. But I think that what we've done so far, we're very proud of, and I think that Set the World on Fire is right up there with any rock record right now, and I feel very strong about that.
What are your favorite cuts off the album to perform live right now?
Right now, I love a song called "Love Isn't Always Fair." It's a great song. We're starting the set today with that. Yeah, and that's a great sort of kind of got. I don't know if you remember the band Vane at all. It's kind of got that kind of vibe to it. Very very cool song.
Tell me about the lyrics.
It's sort of, I guess it plays on the idea that everyone in life, and especially as guys, we're always guilty of this. You see something that is aesthetically beautiful, and then you want it, and then you'll fight to get it, and then once you have it, it's sort of like, what's the next thing? And that is applicable to anything in life. But in particular, you look at, I think that the inspiration from it came from guys that go to strip clubs and they fall in love with this glamorized, and there's nothing wrong with that. We as a band go to strip clubs, that's fine. But it's true that, you walk in and whether the person is horrendous looking or not, the idea and the vibe and everything becomes so, glamorous, and it's a fantasy that you share with a person, and then it's fleeting and it's gone, and it's not real, and it's sort of, love and what people deem to be love in modern society is sort of unfair and not stable. But that's sort of life, and that's why we're here. On the outside, people can sort of, everybody wears masks, right? I mean, ours just happen to be more obvious, but it's like everybody has a sort of a front that they put up to sort of hide their scars. But I think and the reason that, in my opinion, the reason that people wind up ultimately, unfortunately ending their own life or getting addicted to drugs or doing those kind of things is because they don't really have any sense of self. What we try to talk about is to be proud of your scars, to show that we're all imperfect, and I think it's the pursuit or the chase of perfection that, in terms of as a person, that you are somehow I'm above this and I'm above that. That's when you teeter on the brink of like losing everything internally, because you don't have any real sense of self. You're chasing sort of a goal that's not there. It's a mirage at the end of the thing. So I don't know. I personally feel like I don't have those kind of feelings. I've never been suicidal, but I understand when people are. And I think that it's important to, and this is why I think that our music hopefully connects to especially our younger audience, to always be proud of your scars and to, sort of, you don't have to keep your walls up. You can live freely and be the person that you are. And there's really nothing wrong with that.
The scariest thing in the world is to reveal your true self to people, because you never know if they're going to cast you out.
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, look at that's same things applicable to relationships. The first couple dates when you're with someone, you don't really say who you are. You're sort of a false great version of you, and then ultimately they find out that you're a terrible person. But I mean, that's later down the line. No, but I think you're right. I think that people are afraid that if they really show what they feel internally, then they'll sort of get cast out. But those people aren't worth your time anyway. The people that would shun you for being the person that you are aren't worth talking to in the first place.
And do you, with the fame and everything, even, I mean, I'm sure that people think, well, Andy's got it made in the shade because he's a rock star and this, that, and the other. But I'm sure you deal with people not agreeing with maybe your look or rejecting you, and you're totally just being yourself. So how do you deal with that as a person?
I mean, at some point you got to stop bitching. It's like I'm lucky enough to get what I want in the world. I shouldn't just keep complaining about, someone doesn't like how I look at the grocery store. It's like I'm now in a position to help kids that have real problems, that people are really, persecuting them, and people of all ages. People get persecuted for who they are constantly. So for me, it's more about, yes, I do get shit occasionally, but it's more about, taking those moments and turning them into something that can hopefully be inspirational to our audience. I don't want to be the guy who's just bitching about how shitty my childhood was. Because, yeah, I dealt with a lot, but I was strong enough to get out of it, and I want to help pull, our audience members out of it as well.
What do you think of Lady Gaga?
I think she's great. I do. I think that, in terms of a pop culture icon as she is right now, I think that, it's a great role model, and I think that she does a great job of, she's a great performer. She writes great songs. I have nothing negative to say about Lady Gaga.
No, look, we all love Lady Gaga because I think it's always great to have somebody that writes these really great pop songs, but also has a fantastic image.
Right.
And I think her appeal passes through all ages.
And I think it's interesting. A lot of, I think that if you walked around this tour, all rock bands, but I think most people would probably give you the same answer, because I think that she's able to get respect in most places because of what she does, and that's great. By the same token, she is a woman, so, there's a certain, men especially will say, oh, she's great and hot. She can dress however she wants. However, for us, it's a little different. We can't be theatrical without being, fags or whatever else. But that's all right. I got nothing against you, Lady Gaga.
During some of these meet and greets, what kind of stories have you heard from these kids that have really touched you in the last year?
It's always, honestly, it's always interesting, because everywhere you go, someone has a different story, and we've met kids that have been, abused, and kids in foster care, or kids that have been in hospital for harming themselves, and it's always, as much as it's gut wrenching to hear these stories, to see these kids at these shows getting inspired by our music. It's like it's the greatest feeling in the world. So you walk that line between understanding and then being so happy that something that you can do can help that person. So I don't know. It's important to us to listen. We always try to our best to listen to our audience, and that's, at the end of the day, that's all you can do is if a fan comes up to me and tells me that something we've done has helped them, that's the greatest feeling in the world.
Thank you, Andy Biersack of the Black Veil Brides. Blairing out with Eric Blair, signing off.
The Blairing Out Show.